Hello everyone, it is I, your Prince, London. Well, I don't think I'm anyone's prince really, and I don't think I'll ever be, not with my luck anyway. I've been wanting to make this video for a while, just in case I die, in case something happens to me. I wrote down some of the bullet points, stuff that I want to touch upon in this video. I am making this video because I know I'm not famous, I know I'm not relevant or historically important or haven't contributed anything to society. But one of my biggest fears is not leaving a legacy behind. Just the whole concept of dying. It's like you never even existed in the first place is, quite frankly, really scary. So I'm making this video just in case someone else feels the same, just in case someone else feels alone and unheard, then we can feel unheard together and we can hopefully hear each other. I think it's important to build a sense of community. And disclaimer, this is going to be about my life story, everything that I wish people knew, everything. If a book were to be written about me, this is the stuff that I want put in that book. So if you don't want to hear about a stranger's life, then click out of this video. This is not a video for you. I want to start with where I'm at in life. I am currently on my first term of international affairs at my hometown university. I wanted to be Hannah Montana. I'm not even kidding. I wanted to be an actor and a singer and to appear on every single screen and just be the king of Times Square and have paparazzi follow me everywhere. When I was really little, Hannah Montana and, well, Hannah is the only one that pops in my head. But for Halloween parties when I was little, everyone used to dress up for Halloween. I used to always dress as a pop star, as Justin Bieber, or I remember One Direction. The first time I performed in front of a crowd, I performed Kiss You by One Direction with some of my girlfriends. Well, girlfriends, my friends that happened to be girls. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to act. I wanted to be in front of people. I wanted to mean something to someone. I'm studying international affairs, so that's not really something that pairs with international recognition. If I were to major in something that I want, it would be history. I think that telling your story through music or telling a story through acting or through art is very similar to reading about the story of someone and analyzing someone's story and the histories of civilizations across the world. To leave a mark in history can also be done by being an historian. So that's why I've always leaned toward history. And where I'm from, you cannot be a history major because it doesn't exist. Not in the coast. You have to go to the capital city, and it's very expensive. And I used to have money growing up until I was like 6, and my father lost it all in his startup business. So going to the capital was not an option for me. I either had to stay at home or not study at all. And keep those two options in mind. And what I wanted to do when I said to my parents, I want to be a drama major. I want to go to the US. I want to study, come back, but I haven't studied there, either Yale or Harvard. I had really high hopes. I was class valedictorian. I have always been a gifted kid. For a gifted kid, I've kind of run out of rapper. But point is that I was always in every club, extracurriculars. Well, in the ones that I could. At some point, the school stopped letting me in because I don't know, they were just tired of me. And here in Colombia, there's a thing we call la mala, which is if a teacher doesn't like you, it's gonna make your life impossible, and it's very much real. It happened to me in the robotics club and the AV club, which was radio, whatever. But I did what I could, and I enjoyed it mostly. So I probably could have gotten into an Ivy. And the fact that I'll never know messes with my head. See, because I was a minor when I graduated high school, like a lot of people. But my parents have always been very conservative, very Christian. Being Christian is not a bad thing. Being religious is not a bad thing at all. Just in my case, it played against me. I feel like ever since I was born, the cards have been stacked against me. So when I told my parents that, hey, I want to be an actor, I want to try a major in music, the first thing they did was, no, you're not. My father, he said, no, you're not, you're crazy. He left and he went, yeah, he got drunk, like he always does. And my mother, I was talking to my mother and we were not in a screaming match, but something like that. And she said, what would you do? What would you specialize in? And I was like, no, I could do theater, or I could do voice acting, or I could do television, or film, or sitcoms, or I just kept all the different forms of acting. And she just laughed in my face. She said it was a pathetic career and that I could not go for it. So naturally, my two choices, well, my one choice was to stay in my hometown, but like I wasn't gonna study drama or the arts anywhere. It could be free, 100% scholarship. Like I wasn't gonna do that because they weren't gonna let me. Period. So they sent me off to a different country to do finance. It may sound stupid to some of you, but it was probably the worst decision they've ever made. It's very easy to make a decision if the consequences don't affect you. It's very easy to take an action course if you're not gonna feel any defects. And they never will. It's very cold in here, which is pretty unusual. So, in a way, that decision that they made ruined my life. I'll stand by that. They ruined my life. They took 2 years of my life just doing that. And maybe my parents never really prioritized me as a human being. I grew up as a triplet of sorts. I have two brothers that look exactly like me physically, with the only difference being that I'm blonde. And I don't know, it always felt like brother A had mom, brother B had dad, and nor mom or dad really get me. So I would just lock myself in my room. And so my parents just came home, and the whole concept of one-shotting this video is gone. But just lower my voice a little bit and keep on with what I was saying. So growing up, I was part of a tribe that I was never really included or never really felt a part of. My brothers are very similar in tastes, in the way they talk, the way they act, their common interests. And I just wasn't never really a part of that, and I was sort of forced to be a part of that. I remember when I get invited to a birthday party, they get the invitation as well, or the other way around. And the invitation never really spelled my name. It always spelled, I don't know, the Starbucks brothers. Instead of saying my name, the Starbucks brother. And we'd sign the gifts from the Starbucks brothers to Jane, stuff like that. And I always hated that because I always felt like myself. Like, this is who I am. Why am I being forced to be part of a group? And I hate my surname, and I hate my name, and I hate the way I look. It's always been sort of a search for individuality. I never wanted to be like anyone else because I was compared so often to my brothers. Well, you can't, yeah, I'm blonde. I've always had lighter hair when I was growing up, but you know, it darkens with age. But of course, I'm not gonna let it darken, because then I'd be a triplet for sure, and that's not gonna happen, not on my watch. So this is one of the few ways that I can get a hold on who I am, my identity, and I am more than just someone's brother. I am someone, and I wasn't really allowed to do it, to be, to just exist. So obviously, naturally, when I was little, I tried to change my hair color. I remember just sneaking to the pharmacy, getting bleach or developer, or putting lime juice on my head and just staying out in the sun, or vinegar or honey or cinnamon, or all of these different natural things that are supposed to lighten your hair, just to keep being the blonde one. In regard to physical appearance, I was always the fattest one out of the three, and my relationship with food has always been very tricky, to say the least. I don't want to talk about it that much in this video, but in case I die, people shall know that I was kind of bullied for my body by my family, my classmates. When I told my parents, they were like, "Yeah, you should just stick it out." I wanted to switch schools, but it never really happened. So I grew very apart from the rest of the boys. I never really took my shirt off at the pool. I never really changed in front of anyone because I just hated my body. I remember looking in the mirror and just being like, just saying, "You are so ugly." And whenever I see a handsome guy, well, a handsome boy, because at the time I was a boy too, walking down the street, I'd say, like, close my eyes and pray, "God, when I hit 14, I want to have blue eyes and a thinner nose, and I want to be a foot taller, and I want to be 30 pounds lighter," and stuff like that. It never really happened, but you get the point. I hated the way it looked, and whenever I tried to change it, either by natural remedies or actual bleach, or I always just got hit with whatever my parents could find, unfairly punished. They locked me out of rooms. They started picking what I would wear, like the actual clothes, the haircuts, when I would get them, and how I would get them, and how I would get them, and how, the haircut itself. I never really had any control. I used to have a really bad unibrow, and I don't anymore because I block it, but it used to be really tricky. I keep saying tricky. It used to be hell on earth. Just coming back home, it was awful because I showed up to school with my arms full of bruises, and either teachers knew and didn't care, and the ones who did know about just refused to do anything about it. That was one of the reasons why I wanted to switch schools. And my mother is very involved with the school itself, so a lot of teachers know her, and she knows a lot of teachers and coordinators and such. So whenever I'd say something or do something that wasn't supposed to be said, she'd get a call, and then I get beat. It was a lot. And like, for example, I'm just gonna say it. I was sexually taken advantage of at the age of 10 by my German tutor. I swear I wasn't gonna cry, because I'm not crying. And my German tutor when I was 10, it happened in my house. I was just alone with the guy. I was 10, he was probably 29 or 32 or something like that. So for the longest time, I strayed away from sex, from sexual topics, my sexuality, everything. I did tell my parents just the night it happened, and they took care of it. That's all I know, and that's all I'll ever know. That's all I'll ever want to know as well. So it sparked this thing in me. It was like I've never liked anyone, but I've always preferred girls. Do I like guys now as well? Am I attracted to men, or am I attracted to men because of him, the tutor, or am I attracted to men because I was attracted to him? But then I liked girls before it happened. So what happened? So I just strayed away I stayed away from sex, from relationships, all the way to college even. Because it just wasn't something that I could do. And even now, with my sexual experiences, there are some things that I just cannot do. You can't touch me in certain parts, or you can't do certain movements, because it takes me back. I can still feel his hands on my body almost 9-10 years later. My parents blame me for it, because the way it happened was, I was 10. I kind of got a lesson. We were playing some sort of game of like, you say it, I say it in German, stuff like that. And I just pat down his leg. And my parents just heard that and ran with it. So whenever I bring it up, it's always like, you started it. The man doesn't touch another man's leg. I was like, am I even a man now? I've always just had to struggle with masculinity because of it, and previous to it, because it was so different from my brothers, from my father. I didn't really have any boyfriends or girlfriends growing up, really. I didn't really have any friends. I had classmates, but I didn't have friends. And I sought asylum in film and television and music. more specifically Disney. The whole animated films like Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella, Snow White, Aladdin. I've always just felt like they are a safe space. Whatever happened home, things were meant to get better. You know, a dream is a wish your heart makes. A whole new world, and the Little Mermaid just feeling so misunderstood by her father. It just felt like I was safe within Disney. Like magic was real, magic was supposed to happen. And magic would happen if you just had faith, if you believed. And it was weird, this concept of being a man, when I always related to the woman in the film. Because stereotypically, at least in the 20th century, women were always seen as weaker, so they often portrayed the role of damsel in distress. And I often felt not like a damsel, but I've always felt I've always been in distress, really. So it was weird just wanting to be a princess because I needed a prince to save me, because it was the only way that I looked film back then. It was like the prince saved Cinderella, the prince saved Aurora, the prince saved Snow White. They were beautiful, they had dreams, they were young and full of life, they were innocent, but they were just put in bad situations. So of course true love is the only way they can be saved. And I believe that to this day, to an extent, but it's led me to have other beliefs, like the desperation of needing a family, wanting to marry, wanting to be a father, have kids of my own, just because my parents screwed up with me hugely. I've always just said I'm not gonna be like them. If I wasn't born into a family, then I'm gonna make a family, even if it's the last thing I do. No, I'm scared that I won't even get to do it, really. It may sound stupid, but when I was little, I thought that at this point in my life, I would be married. And it's always difficult because then you bring up the topic of how I'm averse to sex and how I'm sort of asexual. But maybe I'm not really asexual. Maybe I'm just sexually traumatized. I've never really explored it. I'm not sure if I want to. And of course, my parents been sort of like monitoring. My accent's even off. I can't speak English very well. Not now, not while I'm crying. Well, actually, yes, I can. This is a funny story, actually. I learned to speak English really well. Well, first of all, I went to a private school. Private schools in Colombia are the equivalent of public education in America. So that's how it works. And as I said, my father had money when I was very young. Now that we are indebted and they're poor, it's a whole other story. But yes, I went to private school. I was the poor kid at private school. The people never really knew that because my parents just made sure they hide it. They asked for loans and mortgages and stuff like that in order to keep us afloat, I guess. Sexually, not sexually, socially, and economically as well. So, that was just saying, private school. Yes, so I felt like I couldn't really say anything in Spanish. I couldn't really curse my parents out. I couldn't really say anything to them. I couldn't speak up. I couldn't watch films as well because my parents thought that I again, quote unquote, was too gay to be a boy. I wasn't man enough. I was watching Disney films. I was insecure. I was overweight. I was letting kids bully me. I touched another man's leg. But I grew up. The way education works in Colombia, or the way it worked when I was little, was that when you were 1 year old, you got put into school, and you'd graduate from that same school. That school has preschool, elementary, middle school, and high school. So that's what I did. I learned things both in, everything in school was in English. So the alphabet, I learned to count, my first words were in English. But outside of school, everything else was in Spanish. And then my grandfather insisted that I watch television and listen to music in English, like Elvis Presley and Cher and the Beatles. Because my grandfather had a weird obsession with Britain. So he spoke English as well. So English was sort of like my way of setting myself loose, being free. I think in English, I dream in English, I journal in English. I just happen to live in a country that doesn't speak English, so it makes communication a little bit harder because my parents would never be able to understand how articulate I am in English. People, the average Colombian, would never be able to understand half my thoughts, and everything I say has to be translated by the loosest power, if that makes sense somehow. So naturally I wanted to go to the US, where the people that spoke my language that actively listened to my music and knew to watch the same films that I had watched growing up. So it didn't happen again, but I think what I plan to do, at least, I'm a firm believer of not saying things before they happen, because then they won't happen. That's my mother. She's probably drunk. So what I want, I'm not crying. That's what I want to do, right? I've written emails to different universities in America. I just said to them, and I've said to them in those emails, hey, so I'm doing this. I want to transfer. I want to try and transfer to the US. Why? Because I want to be happy. I want to be free to be myself, explore areas of myself that I haven't explored before, to connect with people that have the same interests as I do, academic interests. Again, I was class valedictorian, and it was quite easy to be class valedictorian because I am really smart. I often feel out of place, but not everyone gets into Harvard. But in Colombia, if you pay, you get in. That's it. So I'm gonna try and transfer out. I'm on my fall term. I'll do whatever I can of the spring term, and then next fall, if everything goes right, I'll be in America. If not, then I'll probably just do. If I can stick it out, then I'll do fall here and just finish my career, finish my major, or graduate, or whatever it is. I'll just finish here if I can, which I don't think I'll be able to. In that case, I was really happy doing video essays as I did over the summer. And over this 2024, growing this YouTube channel has been the biggest blessing I ever could receive. Hitting 200 subscribers, knowing that 200 people are out there, even if they laugh at me because I sing really badly. Let's face, in my defense, I sing really hard songs. My songs don't sound bad. I don't sound bad in them. But when you sing Mariah Carey, pretty much everyone sounds bad because compared to Mariah, if the standard is Miss Carey, then obviously I'm gonna sound like rubbish. And I'll probably do video essays. I did the one about New York, monarchy. I also did Paris. I have one about Israel and Palestine. I am gonna re-record because a lot has changed since I last edited the script. You know, Lebanon, Hezbollah. A lot of stuff has changed over in the Middle East, which is so sad. It's incredibly sad. So what am I doing to hopefully get accepted? I'm in 13 extracurriculars. I'm doing a physics club. I'm in the school paper. I'm in the international relations committee. I'm in the political science committee. I'm part of the philosophy group, literature group, and what else? Literature, philosophy. Okay, I'm also in the German conversation club, and also in the Association for Colombian University Students. I'm also part of a podcast called La Iguana. I am in charge of the webpage, so I am the IT director, and I'm also the editor because everything that goes up goes through me first. And I'm also in an acting class Saturdays. Why didn't I major in drama here? It doesn't exist. And if it exists in really bad universities and public education in Colombia. Again, it's not decent, it's not good, and it's very sad because some of the brightest minds of the country go to public education, but it's impossible to find funding. It's impossible for example, those public universities to keep going. Every protest, I don't know how to translate it essentially, but every strike, they go on strike every so often. So people that are programs that last 4 years, they graduate in 7 or 8 years, and I don't have the time, darling. So when I came back from abroad, I got diagnosed medically with something that I won't disclose. So I got diagnosed medically. It was medically diagnosed. It is pretty bad, struggling with a disease that I don't feel comfortable talking about on camera, so I'm not gonna. That's a whole separate video. But what I will say is that at least it gave me an excuse written, ink on paper. You are unwell. What you're doing right now is killing you. You need to stop. You need to find your way. So in a way, I'm thankful that I'm sick. It's what got my parents to finally, or not finally, understand, because they never will understand that they ruined my life. But it's what got them to stop trying to write it for me. Because what they were doing is killing me. I have memory problems. I don't remember high school. I don't remember anything from the past 2 years. I didn't grow personally. I have these new phobias. Again, memory, complete garbage. I can remember dates, information. That's why I'm really good at history. Like, for example, Queen Elizabeth was born, and the late Queen Elizabeth II was born in 1926. Stuff like that. But I can't remember actual Like, I can't play the videos in my head. I can play the information, I can play stuff like that, but music, or music I can play, sounds I can play. I have really good audio memory that I can't with videos. You know, the lack of energy and motivation. I don't like being sick, but I was able to take the year off. Well, I wasn't able, I had to, essentially, medically speaking. I'm thankful that things worked out in the way they did, because I got them to at least be aware that I wasn't meant to live the life they had for me, and that I had to be free in order to be healthy. Because as much as they beat me and they hit me and they abused me physically and mentally and belittled me, there's a love there. There's love. You know, it's complicated to love someone who's hurt you in the past, but I love them and I think they love me. I wish I could say that love comes with no strings attached, but I cannot, because it does not. I'll never be able to forgive them, and I probably never will. And it'll probably be one of those things that's always stuck in my head, and I can't do anything about it. I cannot think about, for example, the way in middle school, somehow I started hanging out with the popular kids and it made me feel really good about myself. But my GPA dropped a little bit. I remember French, I went from a 92 over 100 to an 89. Or I didn't get it on the honor roll. I was still the first one in the class. They were like, yeah, you can't hang out with these people anymore. You are not going out anymore. You're never hanging out with them again. And that's what happened. Before I end this video, I want to read some pages of my diary. Again, oh, this is a new diary, actually. I'm happy about this. Here it says my name, Prince Londonderry. I'm very happy about this because, well, my mother, I've had 5 diaries in the past. This is number 6, and she's read every single one in the past, and then just read things and confronted me about them. And I'm just like, I can't have a secret. The only thing that understands me is pen and paper, and if pen and paper are out of the equation, then I'm completely alone in this world. I'm not crying, so I'm keeping this one hidden for as long as I can. Okay. I'm writing again. It's been a while, but it felt right. The timing felt right. I was happy today. I won the map from Hyro's Democratic election. I won by a landslide, democratically. People don't hate me. People like me to a degree. Maybe something has shifted. At least it feels like something has. Classmates that didn't like me before do now. Maybe this is how fame feels. My journey as an independent artist is popping off, and I can't wait to get back to videography. The Israel-Palestine video will get made. The song's thumbnails will be done. I will succeed. I shall succeed. My new calorie deficit feels heavenly as I am not grossly under-eating anymore. I became a social butterfly today, and I liked it. I flew. I know my worth. I will be famous. It's easy to get overwhelmed. It's hard not to. I haven't got energy, and it feels like everybody wants a bite of me. I shall dream the same dreams I've always dreamt. Today, someone told me down about my elusive, dumb, or ignorant persona I put on in class. I'll adjust that. I'll get better at presenting myself. There's no rush to be what I'm not. I can't say I don't hate my life, but I can't say I love it. I do, however, hate when people pretend to know stuff about me or talk for me. I'm the only person in charge of my story. My pen is my own. And as I take on a more active role in my life, I grow more protective of it. I do want to fall into an eternal sleep. I do also want to try and achieve every little fantasy I've ever dreamed of. They are not mutually exclusive. I'm coming to terms with forgiveness and the fact that there are some things I'll never be able to forgive, some things I'll never be able to understand, and some instances where I wish I had been, at the very least, an atom of who I am today. For those instances wouldn't be now. Sorry. For those instances wouldn't be now burned into my brain, engraved on my psyche. Religion confuses me. I believe in God and a moral code that comes from a being so ulterior in goodness as in evil. But I can't or haven't been able to find the right time yet. Just like in my life, my people are out there. I just haven't found my church. When the world is spinning and it feels like everything you say makes it go a little bit faster, better not to worry, for I think you'll worry forever. I wish I could take instances back. I wish I came across as who I know I am, instead of a reflection of someone whom I wish I could come across as who I know I am, instead of a reflection whom when I look at him in the mirror, I can't but fail to recognize him. I worry about lost languages, endangered customs, dying races, and so done speeches. I worry and I do. Change scares me. I'd rather stay still and pretend some things will never change, which is easy, for some never do. But to live with the enormous frustration of not having been aches in a way only those who have mounted a past themselves will understand. I act per an imaginary book about me, and move per an imaginary movie. I'll try not to let public opinion get to my head. I will be the same person they knew, only a little bit more of myself. I can try, at the very least, be content in having tried. But I won't think about, for I won't be placing the utmost importance on a map, but on the people. The prince I know myself to be: strong, brave, witty, courageous, kind, and bottle blonde, and authentic. But I still manage to receive reminders of times when I wanted to kill myself. The diploma just arrived. My father won't stop screaming. He doesn't know. The postman's at the door. I tried telling him, but as I contained the words "shut the hell up" in my head, I realized he didn't hear any attempt of me telling. He's half deaf. I signed what needs to be signed, and my dad has followed me, hysterically screaming. I tried telling him the diploma's arrived. He can't hear me over the noise. He won't stop. He won't stop bothering me until I open it in front of him, so I do just that. He hugs me. He won't stop hugging. The harder he goes, the more I want to push his sweaty body aside, but I contain the "get the hell off of me" in my head. I translate what it says to him. He won't stop saying he's proud. He knows the diploma ruined my life. He knows he ruined my life. What's the point in trying if he'll never even consider understanding? He'll never take the blame anyway. I tell him that I want no one to know. He says the family has to, in just gaining a name. I disagree, but he doesn't care. I hate him. I freaking I didn't write freaking. I freaking loathe him and his very existence, so he'll tell. I say that it's my life, my diploma, and I have the right to disclose or not to disclose information. For a lawyer, he's a brute. No wonder we're poor, so he'll tell. Things that are not for him to share, he'll share, just like he always has to. Like he shared the instance with, like he shared those instances with my tutor all those years ago. The people who don't even care about me. Like their choice of school for me, their choice of program, my disease. Of course, I write what it is here, but I'm not going to say it on camera. Now this, I don't want to forgive him. I can't forgive him. It is wrong. He is wrong. I wish I had a different father, one that one that could love me and understand me, one that I could love and understand, no strings attached. It all comes to me, but instead I need to hear them say, I'm so sorry I ruined your life. It was your decision to make, not mine, and now you have to live with the consequences. They never will, for they don't love me as much as they profess. I'll deal with the aftermath for what seems like forever. Fleeting motivation. See, it's written in cursive, so it's hard for me to read. Fleeting motivation and a strange relationship with God. Nightmares and difficulty falling asleep, a general sense of distrust in people, a learned hopelessness, and an undying desire to be alone, an inability to be alone with my thoughts and not be scared, envy that fills up my heart, a disenchantment toward life, a struggling memory, attachment issues, randomly placed thoughts in my head that take me back to the misery of what has been my past. I can't. I want to get away, but I don't have the energy to do so. No therapist will understand, no person can, not until it happens to them. See, it's a very long thing. I do want to touch a little bit on the God thing. I believe in God. I grew up Catholic. It wasn't my choice. I rebelled against every single chance, every single thing that I had to do, like your first communion or your confirmation. I was forced to do those things. I believe in God, but I also believe that if God I don't know how to phrase this. If God allowed the things that happened to me, or if God permitted the things that happened to me, then how good of a force is he anyway? If all he does is bring pain. If it were up to me, I'd live in the North Pole forever. Quiet. Solitude equals freedom to just be. Mother constantly asks me about my sexuality. I've never explored it. I've never been able to. When I was confused, she snapped. And she snapped at me with a belt, a shoe, or where she could find. Getting up is hard sometimes, so is showering and looking in the mirror. Focusing is unbelievably difficult for a gifted kid. I've run out of wrapper. I've heard that things happen for a reason. I don't think that's true, for there is no infinite wisdom or ever so valuable knowledge that would justify this unsurmountable ache. If I had to do it all again, I wouldn't. Delete my name from it. Delete my name from that equation. Delete it. You could erase it, but be sure to delete it. And this is 39 minutes. And I think this video will probably be 50 minutes, which is good. I thought it'd be longer for some reason, but I'm glad I'm glad it wasn't that long. I'm glad I was able to get stuff on my chest, because if I died tomorrow, at least I want some digital footprint of who I was. I want the truth out there. I don't want people at my funeral being like, he did this, he did that, he was so known for no. No. I am the Prince, London, very stupid last name. The whole Prince thing, now it has a symbolic meaning to me. If I could contribute to society, if I were given the chance, I want to make good, and I want to be good. I want to be a prince, or what a prince should be. It takes me back to my childhood. It takes me back to my childhood. It takes me back to so many different memories. There is so much stuff that has to be done. Getting to university is hard. Talking to people is hard. I'm exhausted. There were 2 buttons in front of me. Live or die. I pressed the die button. No brainer. I didn't ask for this. In fact, I prayed for the opposite. After every beating, every punishment, I prayed. I cried. I stayed on my knees for hours. Just be like, God, kill them or kill me. I get prayed for the death of my parents. Either them or me. Now, more often than not, I pray for my death. But I used to pray for theirs. They're not bad people. They're just lousy parents. I'm glad everything's out there. I'm glad this has been made. Will I make it? Do I even want to make it? Everything just takes up so much energy. I wish the world would stop spinning, and I just wish everything would come to a standstill for me to be able to find myself and to calm down. If I don't get accepted, which I'm applying to some pretty big name universities, so it's gonna be very hard. I will most likely drop out of uni, but it's scary because I've grown up being with people that say you're so smart, what university are you gonna go to? I've just been so academic all my life, but I don't want to be miserable. So what's the difference between going to uni here and in the US? In the US, I'll get to major in history because they're very competitive universities. Then people will be academically driven as well. I'll be able to have intellectual debates, meet with actual intellectual people, and not just people who pay their way in, but actual people who got in based on merit. And I'll always be able to double major. So that's just something. But I do want to continue this YouTube channel. As I said, it's my biggest blessing thus far. I think, see, I'm pretty pessimistic. But it's probably the best thing that's ever happened to me. I've had like 8 YouTube channels in the past. I've changed my name like 1,000 times. But I finally came to who I am. And someone I like. I hate a lot of things about me, but yeah, that's the way it is. I don't know what I'll call this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. you watched it till the end, thank you for listening. You can leave a comment or your life story, something that you want to be remembered by. I'll most likely reply, or at the very least, like your comment. I hope that this has made someone feel less alone. Not because we share the same miseries or the same scorched past, but because we're humans. Maybe something, maybe a thing, just one thing of what I said you relate to, and that makes you feel understood. So it's it's a cold night where I'm from, which is pretty rare because temperature is 77 degrees year round, but we're at 74 right now, and I'm a little bit cold. Good night. I can say that you're loved because I don't feel loved right now. I can't say that you're understood because I don't feel understood right now. But I can say that you're not alone because as long as you have yourself, you are not alone. You are your own hero and you are all you'll ever need. Trust me. Your Prince Unberry. Goodbye.